I remember that story. He's on crazy. You'll say. That would be a bad thing. The old stone house right here. She no, might be here. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's the old stone house. There's a house back in here. Yeah, it's. I turned it about that way. I didn't even see it. No. Okay. They got the outlet reading down here on the so yeah, this is where the road is. Heavy rain. Some research. So they get you one way. Not anymore. Back to the top.
We can hear.
But then again, you're kind of fun. Overseas, I go back here, I'm like, oh God, thank you for the road.
That's what I like. Are you folks?
Right underneath that. Well.
Oh, really? I got some.
You know what? I have no idea. Do you want to?
Triangle that merges. Where you see it.
I might start it. Oh, you did.
You see that?
I mean.
Well, that's the old single lane car driveway.
Well,
They do
this
like-
one over
They
here.
have full lane.
Got one there.
Beautiful lane area.
And then this one, appreciate your patience. I don't hear you, so I'm asking.
Planning commission. Council. Started here.
It was work. After 2 days.
Right.
Are we expecting Randy? Are we expecting Randy?
He never said he wasn't.
Okay, and
Jim's on.
Jim's online.
Hi, Jim. So many first.
I don't know, I just got the card in the mail here. What was it, Saturday?
Neither.
This thing working? No. Nope.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I have to make it work, right?
Are these working now?
Oh, no.
The Kansas says they can hear.
Okay, Cat's can hear, so it's gonna get recorded. All right. That's the important part.
Speak up.
Now, it's everybody else here.
Yeah.
The important part.
All right. Let me call to order this May meeting of the Monroe County Redevelopment Commission. I am Richard Martin. I am president of the commission. With me today are Helen Carney and Peter Kiesling, and we also. I'm sorry?
Does your microphone work? Or do not have?
They
It's hard to hear you back there.
It works for cats,
works for cats.
so we'll speak up.
We'll try and speak loud if we can. You're welcome to move forward as well. That would help. We have some official things we're gonna have to do today, as well as conduct the meeting that has to do with the residential TIF. So this is a regular meeting of the commission, so we have procedures we have to follow when we have an agenda, and we'll start with that. So the first order of business is the roll call, please.
Commissioner Martin,
Present.
Commissioner McCarty,
Present?
Commissioner Kiesling,
Here.
Commissioner Shelton,
Here.
Commissioner Cassidy. I don't see Commissioner Tucker either, so we have a quorum of 4 members.
Okay. The first item on our agenda today is a discussion of what is called a residential TIF. As many of you, some of you probably know, and I think all of you probably got a postcard. We sent out a,
Several did not.
several did not, okay. But the commission generates funds for infrastructure improvements by creating what we call a increment financing district. And the revenue which is generated by growth within that district is able to be used to pay off bonds that we use then to build infrastructure. And normally we build roads, we've done sewers. We also can make a contribution to the Richland Bean Blossom School Corporation for their STEM programs. Essentially anything that helps with the improvement of the lives of the people that are in the district, which is designated as a TIF district. I'm going to let Jeff Cockrell, the county attorney, explain to you a little bit more about what a TIF district is and how we're going about doing this. And then we'll get to a presentation that we've got of some information relevant to this particular TIF district proposal.
And I think Commissioner Martin went over the basics on how the revenue is generated. I think if you look at the postcard that we sent, the areas in the south are pretty much already in what we consider the State Road 46 economic corridor or TIF district. And so some of these are already in a TIF district, some of them are not. Historically, TIF districts were for manufacturing and other kind of business uses. Recently, the legislature has allowed for residential components of a TIF district. And I think even this past legislative session, they've been encouraging more of these types of TIF districts. So the fundamental of what a TIF district does, again, is they provide the infrastructure and support to develop properties within the boundaries of that district. And in this case, we're looking at the area around here off State Road 46 near I-69 and that general area to see if the development TIF area makes sense. And so I think that I could talk all day about TIF districts, so I kind of want to keep it on point. So if you have any questions after this is over, just come talk to me and I'll tell you what I know and maybe fill in some gaps.
Okay. Lisa has joined us. Did Randy show up here?
I've not seen him yet.
Okay. There is a map on the wall. There are a couple of them over here. And there are outlined on those maps a couple of red areas or purple or something like that. The one on the south is the area which is currently within the called the State Road 46 TIF. For many of you that, or for us at least, it's often known as the North Park PUD area. That was created 15 years ago now, something like that. And there has been some development on the south side of 46, but there has been essentially no development in that planned unit development on the north side of 46. Then there is another area, and that area is between State Road 46 and essentially Arlington Road. Then there is another area outlined north of Arlington Road, which is now pretty much vacant property, which sits to the south of some subdivisions out on that Grove Road. There, I've forgotten the road there, and it is west of the interstate, and then it's generally in Bloomington Township with a little bit of it in I think that's Richland Township over there. And we are looking at the possibility of changing the designation of the TIF district for that part of the 46 TIF, and combining it with the area to the north, which is north of Arlington Road, into what is called a residential TIF. As a residential TIF designation, it would allow us to fund infrastructure in support of residential development and acquire the increasing value of those residential units as part of our funding to pay off those bonds. The mechanism that we use to explain this a little bit more. The mechanism we use to pay off the bonds is to capture the taxes that are paid on the value of the property increase from the pre-TIF baseline. So we find out what the taxable value is at the time at which we create the TIF. And as tax value increases over time, the proportion of taxes paid on that increased value becomes available to us to pay off bonds. And we have used that mechanism throughout Orange County. Certainly the largest use of it has been in the area of the west side TIF along Curry Pike. Most of the roadway infrastructure in that area was paid for through bonding. And then those bonds are paid off. A TIF district was also bonding for the extension of Curry Pike all the way up to 446 was also done through bonding. And that bond has now been retired. So we have a little bit of capability there. We are doing some more projects. We'll talk about those in a moment with the current bonding capability, but to move out from the area which is covered by the TIF, we need to expand the TIF area itself. And we're looking to do that to support some residential TIF with the objective of providing some opportunities for more affordable housing by essentially using TIF funding capabilities to pay for infrastructure that would normally have to be paid by homeowners as they build their house. We're trying to buy down the cost of housing through a tax increment finance district mechanism. That clear, more or less? Okay.
Just a point of clarification. So you're talking about, this is the residential TIF you're talking about right now, correct?
The one to the south of Arlington Road.
That's correct.
Yeah, well, no, we don't, there is no
residential TIF.
there is no residential TIF.
No, but that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Developing this residential TIF.
Yes.
Okay. And so you're talking about collecting money for this, only from this area that the money's gonna be collected, or is it from increases in and around that TIF?
It's only the area designated by a TIF where the increase in value is available for us to use to collect tax revenues. I should point out, this doesn't change the amount of the tax on the property at all. All it does is change how that tax money is used within county government. It doesn't change the amount of the tax that you're going to pay. It just means that we get to divert part of that for a specific use within county government.
What's low income housing?
Low income, it's not low income housing. We're talking about what we term as affordable housing.
What is affordable housing?
And we would like to think that affordable housing is in the sub $200,000 at this point. That threshold for affordable housing, as inflation eats away at everything, keeps increasing. So what we're trying to do is to stay well below what the average market price is for a house. And we know we've done some research on what the components of housing cost are. So we know where we can impact the cost of housing. The vast majority of the cost of housing is not something that county government can manipulate or manage or do anything about. Those are all market considerations. We do have some capabilities when it comes to infrastructure. And that's primarily where the residential TIF would come in terms of providing some infrastructure to support more affordable houses. Yes.
So how much do the taxes decrease for the school systems?
Nothing.
How come?
Doesn't change that at all. Because their taxing is separate.
It's separate.
Separate. Yep. Yes. in the back.
I'm sorry, I would like to ask about, like, the large part in the grant is a 1 acre minimum. And at this point, an acre in this county is about $100,000 if you're looking. So how on earth can you do affordable housing if it's like this? Because you just passed the MCO.
Well, we will go into that already in the area which is in the North Park PUD. There is more dense housing available in that area.
Correct, that area, but I'm talking about the new areas.
In the area to the north, there would be some opportunities perhaps for rezoning parts of it. But it also needs to be the case that we generate enough revenue from the properties that are built to pay the bonds. And sometimes we have to build more expensive houses, which have a higher tax value, to generate enough revenue to pay the bonds to support the infrastructure that we're putting in both those more expensive areas and those that are more affordable. So it's a kind of a balancing act we're trying to do here to make sure that we've got capabilities across the board.
Are you talking about building the houses before the infrastructure is in? Because that area is all on septic.
Right, we are not
So
doing that. Our job would be to provide the infrastructure so that when the homes are built, they can take advantage of that infrastructure. And that's essentially the same mechanism we use on commercial properties. We build the roads that enable the parcelizations to occur and the factories to be built. That's essentially the same mechanism that we use there.
So the houses would go in first
No,
and then the infrastructure would follow later.
no, infrastructure would go in first. That would be.
But
what
then
we would-
where is the increase in the value coming?
When you build the homes, the value increases. These are long-term bonds. We
I
bond
understand.
for 20, 25 years. So we may do a project and the build out that's associated with that infrastructure may take 20 years to come to fruition, to end up paying off those bonds in total. This is a mechanism which we have used successfully throughout the county.
I have a follow-up on my earlier question, if I could please. So you're saying you would build the roads, or the zoning is there, with, for the infrastructure, that could be different zoning for more housing.
Yes,
So you would not rezone it first?
we don't do anything with zoning. We are not involved in zoning at all.
You would not submit for a rezoning before you put in the infrastructure?
We would only look at the potential for the development of the area in terms of the infrastructure that would be provided. And in all cases, the infrastructure would meet county standards. So the road widths are going to be standard road widths for counties. Any sewering that's put in would be the standard that we would put in a development area. All of that would be independent of the zoning that is actually occurring for those homes, because we don't deal with zoning at all.
And can I maybe expand on that a little
Yes.
bit?
Pick up.
Let me know if you can't hear me. I'll try to talk as loud as I can. I understand your question, and I think that is a correct answer, but I think when you look at and I am combining it with the previous question as well, but when you look at the financing and how that works, there may be a requirement that before someone will buy the bond in order to put the infrastructure in, they may require some of these changes to occur prior to. I suspect that is probably going to be a must from any any lending institution, those kind of rezoning is in place beforehand. Technically, it doesn't have to be pursuant to the TIF standards. But I think from a practical, how do you get the funding to come in? I think that would have to occur first.
What is the density that you have to have some vision for what the density will be in that area? Can you talk about that a little bit for us?
Well, at this point, the densities that are in the North Park PUD have been established, and we've got some slides we can show you to give you an idea about how much housing is available in those areas. I think it's around 500 units of single family, multifamily opportunities. The areas to the north, I believe, are now 1 acre in most of that area. So if you roughly take the number of acres that are there, and that would be the number of potential homes in the area, minus some amount for the roads that are there, and some particular kinds of slope features or karst features that might be in the area. That would all be done through the standard zoning and development process through the Monroe County Plan Commission.
Yes.
Just a quick question. Has there been any interest already by possibly developers and things that maybe have already that you guys have had any contact with, or?
We've had a couple of feelers. I know also that there's some firm looking to do a project in the North Park area. But we don't have any specifics at this point in time. But there is something that is, we are coming close to the point where there is no place in Monroe County, in the city of Bloomington, to build anymore. They're building it all. They're just about saturated. Building is not going to stop. We have a market where people want to be, and so we need to try and find appropriate areas for people to build homes, and this is one of those areas. Yes.
Has there been any discussion on keeping greenways and things like that? Because you come in there and start slamming in housing development. I'm just up the road here, and you just slammed in a buttload of apartments on an old farmland there. And then you circumvented around what used to be my grandparents' property, and they stripped out every tree and everything in there. And all there is fences.
Yeah.
And quite literally, we now have most of the deer and everything on our property.
Yeah.
Which doesn't bother me at all. I mean, that's fine with me. Mom just never sees the flowers in the spring of the year. But I mean, quite literally, if there's any more development, I mean, we're looking at here on 46, that little nice finger that goes straight up onto Arlington Road. Okay, that's a primary woods area there, and that guy's wanting to just mohawk it.
Right. There are within that PUD.
Okay.
There are a lot of designated green space areas.
Okay.
And for them to make any changes in that, they're going to have to go through the entire process of planning that again. But there are green spaces in that. I'm not sure that we've got an image that shows all of them, but they are in there. And the Plan Commission is pretty good about creating green space in developments that occur. In areas that have been, that are like the corridor here, this corridor here,
Yeah.
it's tough to do because of the economic pressures of the property and what it takes to get things done.
Well, up behind the IGA, I remember that subdivision that went in up there, that was an old maple camp. Old trees, and that guy went in there and mohawk.
Yeah.
Everything, and then they put these little ornamental trees in there, and it's like, come on.
Yeah, well, I sat on the Plan Commission for a long time, and it's a hard thing to deal with.
So one question I wanted to ask, and I don't need to be manipulating the speech here. You're talking about the north side of Arlington Road. And it's about 100, I think on the sign here, it showed up like it was 141 acres or something like that. Isn't that the old historical farm?
There is some area up there that is designated historic. Certainly along the roadway there are historic areas that are designated there. And the plan commission, whenever they would do anything, would take all of that into consideration. They are responsible for dealing with that.
Because all back up here in that green area, the forested area at the backside of the farm, there's a lot of stone fencing back up in that area.
Yeah.
Where they cleared fields and everything. And I think that's still part of that farm. Yeah, right there. You can see where the plow area is.
In the back.
So, my mom lives on, 55 North Maple Grove Road, and just today, there's been all these trucks going by, and going in the field across from her and dumping a whole bunch of soil, basically. And it's, basically it's right up from Lost Man's Lane. And I was like, is there a subdivision that's gonna be suddenly sprouting up in that field? So I don't know, since Maple Grove Road is a historic road, like, isn't there some limitations about what you can do around that area, or do they do the thing where they get exceptions? That seems to be the protocol now.
That's a little far afield from where we're trying to deal with things. And as a redevelopment commission, we have nothing to say about any of that.
Okay.
Nothing to say.
Is it the planning
Not
commission
within
that
our,
decides those?
I'm sorry.
Or could they complain?
Yes, you can certainly, if you have a concern about that, I know you can go to the Plan Commission website and you can file a complaint on that website or an inquiry and ask them. And they will get back to you and let you know what, if there is a permit there and what kind of permit has been given. Generally, if people are gonna move dirt around, you gotta have a permit.
Yeah, and it's been all day long,
Yeah,
all day.
yes.
I guess my question is the North Park area and the area that's now currently on the screen are so vastly different. Is there not a way to break those into two different sections? Because those are very different. One is a corridor that I guess is, as we talked about, there is development along that corridor, and one is very different from that. And farms and residences, and it is zoned estate and most of that.
Right.
And so I guess my question is, why is it being lumped in with such a high development area?
We need to get enough opportunity to build enough different kinds of housing so we can generate the increase in property value that will generate the tax increment that we need to do bonding activities in any of those areas. One of them by themselves is not going to be sufficient for us to generate enough revenue over the life of a TIF to pay off any bonds we're going to have to do for essentially roadway work
So
primarily.
it's
So,
going in
but how
step
they are used, how those two areas are used is up to the plan commission, not the redevelopment.
They still have change.
They still have to go through all the planning stuff. All we do is create ways for us to put in infrastructure. That's all we're doing. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a little concerned about affordable housing being created for multiple housing units where the developers apply for affordable rental housing tax credits. If they do that, then doesn't that income that you're planning get circumvented again, and it doesn't go towards paying those bonds? Can an exception be made where they're not allowed to apply for those?
I don't know that that changes their taxable value. And it's only the taxable value that we have access to.
But if they're not paid, if their taxes are abated, or if they are forgiven because they created this housing, then that income is not coming in.
Yes, that is true. That is true. But that's one of the ways we get affordable housing. And that's another reason why we sometimes need to bring in enough housing that is not affordable to help pay the bonds that also serve affordable housing areas, as well as those homes that are not in that affordable category. you can't just pick out one of them and say, I'm gonna do just this one. You've got to have a large enough pool and variety of of assessed value to make the financing work. If you don't have that, then there's no way that we can benefit anybody through any of the tax income and financing capabilities.
I have another question. I'm sorry. I think we just, her property is right smack in the middle.
Yeah.
And when you consider someone who has 16 acres and doesn't want a house per acre on that land, and you're counting on a house per acre on that land to make the money you need to make for these other ones.
We're not telling anybody what they have to do.
To you.
And then, so then roads then, what would be the interest?
Well, we can talk about roads. We've got some slides. Let's kind of go through some of these presentations now. We've got a lot of questions up there. Let's go through some of the presentations and I can give you some more information about how we've thought about some initial ideas that we have about how this might be able to make it work. Okay. You were asking about how many. This slide shows you the areas in the North Park PUD and how they are, what housing densities there are in the areas right now. So this is, the North Park is on the bottom down there. Then there are some areas to the north of that. These are the zoning at the present time. Okay. See what,
Could you describe what those colors mean, please?
Yeah,
okay.
that would be helpful.
The brown area is PUD. So it's a planned unit development. The North Park is the one at the bottom. Then there's another one over on the by 46 or by 69. The one that says expired PUD. There is another one up north, I think, which was a different PUD and is not included in our area that we've been looking at. Then the areas that are in light green, I believe are now designated RE1. And the areas designated in gray are probably a higher density than that. I don't know what it is at this point. But that's a subdivision up in there, so it's going to be more dense than 1 acre, I think. Okay.
0.41.
Huh?
I think it's 0.41 acre minimum.
Yeah, 0.41 acre minimum. So that's essentially 2 lots for the acre. Okay. What's the next slide that's up? I can't see the slide order here. Let's go to the next one. Let me see if I can talk to you, give you a little more information. These are, okay, let me go up here. Okay, all right. This one shows where we have sewers in place. So these dotted little dots here, these are the sewers that are in place presently. All of these sewers are managed by the City of Bloomington Utilities. These sewers down in here are managed by the Regional Sewer District. And they have a sewer plant which is located kind of right here on the screen. And it discharges water into a creek that then flows north from here through this area here. South Creek. So there is no, and there is a plan for then sewering in the North Park area would connect to this regional sewer district. We don't have a plan for this area up here yet. And this is a possibility for use of some of the TIF funds would be to figure out how we would sewer this area up here where people want higher densities. If they want the lower densities, then septic systems may be suitable up here. I doubt, but I don't know.
Not in this county.
So
Not
topography.
Not under the county, right?
As far as topography and
Well, there's a lot of septic systems up there already.
You're right,
Right.
but to build a new one,
minimum
one house,
Oh,
you
yeah.
gotta have over 1 acre of ground
Yeah, it's really expensive now.
of, just to put the sewer system in. Now, the county says you have to have 5 acres of land to build a house in Monroe County, unless it's a subdivision. Then it can be less than that.
Well, they have different kinds of planning.
You have to, you have to have 5 acres or get a variance from the county to build on anything under 5 acres.
I don't recall that that's the case now, but it
Been
might
that
be.
way for years.
Not, when I was on the planning commission, it was not. There are, and I know they are in the process of redoing their plan.
The only reason I know for sure that's in effect right now is because when I was arguing about the winery, they mentioned the fact that to build a house, it had to have 5 acres.
And we're on Richmond, we lost some sewer system.
In an RE1 area, you have to have 5 acres to build a house.
No, RE1 is 1 acre.
Richmond, we lost some school district.
Oh, that's
RE,
a separate
RE
issue. Let's get back to this. All right. So there is no sewering available up in here. So that's one of the possibilities for use of TIF funds would be the sewer projects in this area up here. Okay?
True.
That's all.
It would certainly be true that we would be sewering all the projects that would occur in the North Park PUD area.
There is currently sewer systems that go down 46. Sugar Acres is part of it. We're on Pyramid Court. This is at the far west end of,
Up back over here.
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be, it's a Richland Bean Blossom, or it's a Eastern.
And I think Westbury Village is, not Westbury, the next housing development was Stonehenge Manor. I think they are also on the sewer system too, if I remember right. You're talking 30 years ago, 20, 30 years
Yeah.
ago, they put it in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but notice we're pretty much to the west or to the east of those areas there.
A lot of your sewer system will be based on also your drainage pattern of
Right.
whether you're over one side of the ridge or on this back side of the
Yeah,
ridge.
yeah.
The farm is kind of that 141 acres or whether that big plot right there splits, goes kind of both sides.
Right.
One would drain towards the sewer plant to the north in Bottoms.
So we don't often use gravity as our only mechanism of
Oh, no,
moving
I know,
sewage
lift
anymore.
stations and things like
Yeah.
that too. Yeah.
Let's go to the next slide. Oh, sewering is one issue.
Yeah.
Next slide, please.
Water.
All right, the pink areas on this slide are steep slopes. And you can't build on a steep slope in Monroe County. So that further restricts where housing developments can occur. And you'll notice that what we're looking for are those properties that are sitting essentially on areas that are flat enough that we can get homes situated on them at somewhat higher densities than large, big open lots. Okay, so that's why these areas are more attractive, because they are sitting on flatter land, which makes it easier for us to get higher densities in those areas. You'll also notice that there are also parts of this that simply are not going to be very buildable, certainly along the Stouts Creek. This area on the west side of the North Park PUD, there's a lot of slope areas in there that make it difficult to site homes in there. That's one of the reasons why there are some higher density opportunities there, is because they're going to have to build up rather than out. Next slide, please. These are some of the designations of the sizes of the properties. So we're looking at, there's a 25 acre parcel there, it's 131, there's 40. I don't remember the total number of acres in the North Park PUD area here, but we're also including undeveloped but smaller parcels in the same grouping. Next, please. Currently, we have some infrastructure projects that we've thought about in the North Park PUD that we could support. We are already doing this one. We have bonded for the Hunter Valley Road project, and that should begin sometime this year. We've also looked at a connection up here, which would connect a roadway into the stub, which has been provided on 46 right here. So that, and that would be the beginning of a roadway network that would run through the North Park PUD and connect with an existing road stub here. We've looked at connecting this existing roadway with that stub so that we've got a way to move traffic through the area. Next slide, please.
Question on that.
Yes.
Is road number one being funded by TIF funds?
Yes. Yes. Yes, we've issued a bond for that and that's paying that off.
So is the plan then to take that down into that stub? I assume stop like that on what we call the Autobahn 46, the 4 lane. Are you gonna come down, is that the plan to dump, forgive my term, but to dump that traffic down onto 46 that way?
Being this way?
Coming down, yeah, because Maple Grove currently floods when it rains.
A lot.
And if we put all that up there on the top of the hill, so it's not soaking in, we're gonna flood Maple Grove even worse. So now we're gonna have people who are blocked when it rains because we filled all that with housing, unless there's a way to get them out of there in a different direction. So is in this plan, is there funding to fix Maple Grove Road so people aren't stuck up there because we've messed up the water that's going to Stout Street now, and it has for a zillion years, or 6,000, depending upon your philosophy.
Roadway improvements are part of what we would be able to do with TIF funding.
Could we get confirmation and a promise that you would do that before you destroy the water flow down that way?
Well, that's not up to us. That would be up to the plan commission.
So we have to tell them we don't want it until they want to do this. Is that what you're saying to us? That we have to fuss at the plan commission and say, you have to do this before we're not going to raise heck about that. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we're talking about apples and oranges here.
No, we're talking about being flooded and not being able to get out.
Where does the flooding occur?
At the bottom of the hill of Maple Grove, just north of Stout, where Stout Street goes underneath it.
Yeah.
It floods there. Week and a half ago, we had 18 inches of water on there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this floods right in here. That the section you're talking about?
I can't see your map that well, I'm sorry. Just as soon as you drop off of Arlington Road on Maple Grove and make the quick right, at a 30-mile-an-hour corner, by the way, you make that corner, then you cross the bridge. There's the Civil War era house on the left. Just beyond that, it floods, and it doesn't flood a little bit, it floods a lot.
That's right in
It's
here.
dangerous.
And there's one just over, just the other side of the bridge, north of the bridge.
That's what I'm talking about, yes,
Okay.
yes.
And that's relatively new.
That's new
Yes.
because of the development up to the west.
I don't know what caused it, but it's flooding. Which is why I'm concerned, because I've lived there 36 years, which makes me a newbie compared to some of you guys, I get that. But we didn't have that until the last few years,
That's
Right.
Right.
ever. And now we get it regularly.
So it could be that part of that problem is that the creek is not draining properly to the north.
Drainage great. It's draining to the creek across the road.
It's going.
It's coming to the
Okay, wait a
creek.
minute, wait a minute. This creek runs this way, goes that way.
Yes.
Okay,
Correct.
so if the water is backing up here and flooding,
It's not backing up on Stouts Creek. It's coming down from the west across Maple Grove
Oh, okay.
to the creek.
To the creek.
coming this way into the creek.
Yes, but it's right just off of Arlington on Maple Grove,
Yeah.
probably between 1,000 and 1,500 feet. Would that be you guys? Would that make sense distance wise?
Right.
It's flooding, and last week it shocked me because I've lived there that long, and I came around the corner and I was worried about hydroplaning in a big vehicle because, wow, where did this come from?
All right, okay.
It's been due to the developments to the west.
That's what I'm concerned about, is if we do that up here, if you do that up there, and now all of a sudden that farmland that absorbs the water as farmland does, because we keep hearing in town how much we have to pay extra because pavement doesn't let water flow. We hear that all the time, and we get taxes raised by,
Yep.
you know, this is exactly what causes that already.
Okay,
And
so
we're
we now know it's an area we need to look at.
That's right.
We know it's an area we need to look at.
And we don't want this approved until you look at it.
Well, if we don't,
Look at it first.
if we don't look at it, then we can't, we can't figure out how we're gonna fix it. We don't know how much it's gonna cost, and we'll have no money to fix it, even if we know it needs to get done. The whole point here is to make funds available to solve problems like this that are inhibiting the use of the property for some kind of affordable housing.
The county has money to fix this right now.
Well, I don't believe they actually do.
Yes, they do.
I think our
Then you
question
need to
is.
talk to the commissioners, not to me.
And I don't mean to sound argumentative. I apologize, my teacher voice comes out. I can't help that. Thank you. I taught sixth graders, you have to have a teacher voice. Is that we're concerned that if this gets passed, it's water over the bridge, no pun intended, that it's gonna go for high water, again, no pun intended. And then we're gonna, at the end of it, we go, oh, gosh, as we're looking for the 2x2 going under the ark. Okay, that's what we're concerned
All
about,
right.
if I read the room correctly.
No, I think that's a very legitimate concern. And it's certainly something we need to look at.
So I think we would like to be assured that prior to voting, yes, this is a TIF, the county, who's gonna make the money off this in the long run with taxes, has done the work and done the due diligence that we can be assured that we're not gonna be flooded and that we have roadways that will get this much extra traffic out. The poor person at Maple Grove, when it first comes up Arlington, she can't keep her bridge up, or her fence up, because every time she does, somebody drives through it. Okay?
Yeah, we got a lot of those places in the county.
I take driver's ed kids through there every day. Just know what happens when you drive too fast. So I think that's that's the concern that I think we have.
Yeah, okay.
At least I.
It's a fair
The
concern.
county has a stormwater group that has money to fix some of these things right now.
But that's not anything I, as a member of the redevelopment commission, can do
We talk to
anything
the
about.
commissioners. Talk to the commissioners.
Talk to the commissioners. They're the audit, they're the people that have the purse strings here. We don't.
Who decides if there is going to be a TIF? Is it a vote? Is it something?
Oh, no, there are multiple votes that have to occur.
It's like a referendum kind of thing, is that?
Well, it's not, doesn't go to that extent.
Not to that
There's a whole series of things that have to occur. And we're in the process of starting those things. We've already done some of them. There is no firm proposal yet. Okay? We're just trying to figure how we can proceed if we can.
Are there already engineers that have been hired to help figure this out?
No. There's no money to pay for them if we did. Yes, back there.
I have a question.
Yes.
At the end of New Curry Park there, across the road there, Kreider built that years ago and has a roadway structure in it. Does it have sewer in it as well? And if so, that was part of the thing that, years ago with the super fund and stuff like that PCBs and all like that. Is that still part of North Park?
Yes. And there are sewers where they have built roads. There are already sewers. The Superfund site is now under the management of the EPA, and we don't have access to it at all to do anything with it. And we have some restrictions on what we can do with properties in that vicinity that we are paying attention to. They are not included in any of these residential proposals because we can't use it for residential uses.
Now, on east and west of the new part of Curtis Pike, how far back west does that come?
You're talking about number one on that,
It comes all, there's an intersection here.
From 46 back west on the new part of Curtis Pike, where it comes down to 46. How far back does that come? All the way to the roundabout?
No, it probably stops at the end of the North Park PUD, which is roughly in here.
Okay.
Although you mentioned a couple of roads or a stub and then another road, can you tell me the name of those roads?
Which ones now?
You pointed at a couple of those purple areas and said we want to extend this road into a stub, and I want to know what two roads you're talking about.
That was off of 46 up there, number one.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Well, number two up here, there's a stub on 46 right now.
Yes.
Okay,
It's just a pavement that they put in for a roadway.
okay.
So we would connect with that, and that would run down essentially through the property, past the old mine area here, a quarry area, and connect up with a roadway that already exists here. And I don't know the name of this road. I've forgotten.
Okay, that's all in the North Park area.
It's like Stone Branch or something like that. And this is all in the North Park area. We don't have this. And then another one would be whatever this connection point is here. This would go back towards, I think this is like Stony Brook or something like that. It's over here in the subdivision. Yeah.
You made it.
Yes, ma'am.
Concern I have on 46, you're adding all this traffic in there. Right now, the apartment fund is like where the Pizza Hut is, ATI, plus the new apartments going in a little bit further east. The highway commission said they're not putting any more stoplights in there, and I don't know how traffic is going to actually happen 46 of all those people coming out of the apartments, let alone out of this area.
Well, you've got a stoplight here. You've got one up here.
Yeah, but they're like huge apartment complexes going in all these other places, and they just put the 70 and getting. I mean.
When stoplights are put in, when a study is done indicating that they meet the state's criteria for a stoplight.
You have to have a killing there first.
Well,
Is
talk to the
is
state.
the bottom stoplight, I'm sorry, it's hard to read these.
Yeah.
Is the bottom stoplight you just pointed? Right there, is that the one into what is lovingly referred to as Criderville, where the hospital was going to go?
Yes,
Okay, and then the other one is not up to Arlington Road?
this is Arlington Road.
That's where the stub where the records sit every day.
No.
because-
Right.
No, this stuff right here, there is
That's where the
no,
records sit every
there is
morning.
no light,
Yeah,
there is no light there.
All right,
There's no, and until there's enough
I get that.
traffic,
I'm
you don't do anything.
I understand.
And we are doing this one. I'm expecting that over time, there will end up being a stoplight here. Which is
why,
that's at the end of where Hunter Valley now comes into Arlington Road.
okay, that's by the church.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I expect, if we get, I mean, this should start to be being used as a way to get into town because you don't have to get on 46.
Yeah, because there's no way to get
You
to
can go down
the
seven.
northbound.
You can get on 17.
There's no way to get to the interstate from there anyway.
Oh, okay, that's where.
All right, next slide. Let's keep going. Next slide. Okay, so this is in the northern part that we were talking about. If we are looking at it from a planning perspective, we would think about roadways that would connect at the Acuff intersection on what is it, Maple Grove, and would run across and make an intersection with Arlington Road somewhere over in here. Now these are very just conceptual things. Where the roads would go would be an engineering problem and development problem but this is the kind of thing that a bond could pay for. We would also look at going north and connecting with existing roadways. So there's a stub on Lancaster Drive that would be available. There's also a stub up here that would be available. And we would probably want to do an east.
Where on Lancaster Drive is there a stub?
Yeah. what is the
There's a
difference?
house up there.
There's a road that dead ends. The house
It
comes
dead
off.
ends into my driveway.
Right.
Yeah.
It is not a step.
Ah,
It's your driveway.
okay.
My
That's where
driveway.
there's just
So your
Very-
garage is. going
lots
to
of
be
houses are in
brick.
that area already.
Well, I mean, these are all conceptual things. We don't know what's available up there yet. We're just looking at a map and we're saying this is the kind of thing that we could do. The particulars of it, we haven't made any decisions about, and we won't make any decisions about, because it's not something that the redevelopment commission decides.
And you understand why when you see like a red thing saying this is a step and this is where we're gonna put a road and it's like your home, why that is concerning, and like the whole nature of that area is completely different from like the south part. From what
Yes.
we're discussing. And so like the fear with this is that you say, we're giving you bonds for these roads, we're gonna let this be a subdivision, and then this is where the road's gonna go, and then all of a sudden, that's what's gonna happen. I mean, this is where this is getting to be an issue, is that
Like to affect somebody's livelihood, their savings, what they've worked for their entire life.
Right.
By the time it gets to that point, it's all said and done, and you have to make a choice now, whether you sign and sell.
And the nature of this area is just so vastly different from the further south part. And that's why I guess I'm concerned is that when you see the roads going into her driveway and through her land, and like who, when does that get decided and by whom, if you say this?
It's not decided.
No, I understand that. It's
Yes.
It's not decided yet.
You're
It
not
will be
explaining
decided
it.
one way or
You're
the
not
other.
telling us the process.
But once you
And
get the TIF district, then any number of different things can happen that are out of residents' control.
out of our control.
No,
Because it goes to
No.
another commission.
Nothing
to
can
make
happen.
decisions.
nothing can happen as a TIF district. It cannot happen now.
But there is more of this is, I guess, what the question is that there is more of a drive for a developer who, when you say, I'm gonna put in the sewer and I'm gonna put in the road for you, to go in and put a highly developed area and then say, well, we can only do this if this road goes here. And then someone else says, well, then we have to do the road. And then that goes through someone else's land. Do you see what I'm saying? There's more of an incentive for people to subdivide an area that may not have ever been subdivided. And I know you're wanting to put more land there. There's so many, I guess, throughout the county, there's so many areas that have access to roads, that have access to highways, that are flat, that do not have karst features. This kind of digging them through and cutting a road through these karst features, it makes no sense to me. And I'm
Right.
just trying to understand.
I understand. I understand.
How much research has anybody done into this, into the amount of limestone that's here? Remember Bloomington North?
Actually, quite a bit.
You know, the house, you're talking about Lancaster, the house right across the road from, it was my grandfather-in-law's, is sitting a foot higher than it was supposed to be because it couldn't get through the limestone.
Yeah.
And
But those
and
aren't
there's
issues.
underground streams through here that literally shoot 3 feet out of the ground, because I've seen it. You guys have too, when it rains. And, I mean,
And there are sinkholes all over.
Yes, I understand all of that.
But
I think there are better places to do this.
Well, the question from a standpoint, just knowing the area on Maple Grove Road, Lancaster, and the area you're talking about being a highly residential, established neighborhood long-term. what we're looking at to start here is not particularly that these are going to specifically go there. The conceptual idea is to actually put the infrastructure where it's needed to start with, the Hunter Valley Road in that particular area, so that everybody knows ahead of time. There are significant amounts of time as the main arteries are developed, which public input is the key critical aspect. And then as we get into these more sub areas, that the neighbors and the individuals have the input to say, we don't want it going here, but it needs to go here in order to accommodate what the future is. Now, the ideal situation, as we've all know, nobody wants to affect the individual person's property, investment, or long-term residence. The ideal that we're trying to do as we move forward in this, especially particularly in the what we refer to as North Park, we're all going to call it Criderville. Okay,
Mhm.
the reality of it is developing that area as a central hub, so we don't have all of the.
Be a great place for a Meyer and a West Chick-fil-A and a Home Depot. This stuff. Yeah.
Are those the things that the community as a whole wants?
I
Is
don't
the
know.
main objective as we look through here to develop these areas. And the TIF is something that as a community as a whole, we're able to utilize in order to get these infrastructure pieces ahead of time, rather than just going through a plan commission aspect where a developer says, well, can I put it here? Can I
The
put it here?
Criderville area's already got the infrastructure, my understanding.
Right, I think
Correct?
it's because of
Because the hospital's
Oh,
not-
I'm sorry, I'm Randy
He's a
King.
member of the.
Redevelop, I'm a member of the
We're good.
Redevelop.
We're fine.
Okay.
I mean, you sat at a table, we kind of figured you ball there. Am I correct that the infrastructure always went into Criderville, the area
No.
on the north,
No, that's.
that
part
did
of-
not go in?
Yeah, there's some
Well,
of it.
some of it is,
Some of it
where
has.
there are roads, there are sewers,
Okay.
but most of it doesn't have roads, so most of it
Right,
doesn't
you
have
just got the
sewers.
one area, I understand.
And that's part of the area that we're trying to look at that helps to establish that.
I
So
don't know that, and I don't want to speak, I don't know that anybody here really has a great heartache with that becoming
right.
housing or something. I don't know that anybody has that. It's when you start getting up in here and the houses have been there, the stone fence area, the houses that have been there, back to literally the Civil War.
Yes.
Okay, literally the Civil War. That we start running stuff down through there and without, once the house is there, once the road's there and the water's coming, you're screwed.
Well, we have the Maple Grove Historic District also
Absolutely.
that we have to take into consideration as we look through from a long-term standpoint. So the idea of this TIF area is so that the community as a whole in this particular area, being, the near Ellettsville, north side, Maple Grove, can develop in that area in the concentrated way that the community wants, so that we can put that hub of activity in, not in an area that's going to be detrimental to us in our residential lives and quality of life. I mean, it's right now, as you put it on Chick-fil-A, you go all the way to the east side.
I think you ought to put all the concentration,
I'm just.
I think you should put all the concentration on the north side, northeast side of 46.
Which,
And southwest of of Arlington Road.
right.
Just put it between 46 and Arlington Road.
And that,
And forget about the stuff
right.
farther north.
Yeah, on the other, this is just a conceptual aspect, so everybody is aware 50 years from now. But we've all been here for quite a while, and this is our community as a whole. When we look at what the time frame is of what has came from when, and I'm North Park / Criderville. I mean, that's been approximately 20 plus years as that has occurred. So since we're just now coming to the point where we look at a TIF area and how do we as a community finance the major infrastructures that are needed without having impact on the individual, taxpayers, which is all of us. And by doing that, trying to identify this TIF to pick that area. When we talk about conceptually, they're thinking long-term, but that is so far out, the chances of that occurring while people are in this room is extremely minimal. The Criderville area is the primary objective at this present moment. Yeah, but, 100 years now, we don't know, but the Maple Grove Historic Area and such is key critical. I mean, and as you well know, I appreciate your comment on Bloomington High School North, because, you know, the aspect of what occurred when they did that, most people don't even think about, but the significant amount of impact that it cost the community as a whole was significant. Now, we got a great school, love the Cougars, but, I'm still a Mustang. Yeah, I'm still a Mustang. I can't-
It's a little high.
Yeah, it sets high because of those situations. And we also have to look into consideration, you know, limestone is a key part of our community. And we don't want to just throw roads over something that is going to impact those deposits that help make us a worldwide destination and notable. So that,
That's right where you've got the two roads there in the 131 acres that are coming out on the Arlington Road. That has got to be one of the worst places to even think about putting a road in right there. Because it's in a curve and in the wintertime, and I tell you what, people, excuse the term, bust ass going down through there. They have a posted 40. I can tell you this much, I don't go less than 55 down there. I mean, that was the old 46 and that's what I drove it at. And that's right across from the furniture store, if I remember right. Right in about that area. That is a lot.
Well, I, actually, where this is drawn, nobody looked at the topography. I think that's a non-accessible spot right there. But, you know, it's gonna be, you know, this way or over, maybe over to there, or maybe down into here.
The idea of
We don't
coming
know
out,
where it's gonna go.
the idea of coming out on Maple Grove there at ACUP is almost asinine.
Thank you.
The reason I say that,
You can
is
take
where
the
they're gonna
ratchet kit
go.
off that.
ACUP is gone.
Coast gone. Beer Can Alley is
That
on.
road is gone.
Yeah.
So all they can do is either go north on Maple Grove or south. They could get there anyway, the way it is now.
Well, it could be that we would come down here, or go up there.
It doesn't matter. I'm just saying, to come over,
Well, the question
get
is,
to Maple Grove Road,
if you
from
put
that
houses,
location,
if you
it's
put houses
ridiculous.
here,
You gotta get them.
you got, if
Because
you
you-
put houses
you're
here,
talking
you
a-
gotta give them a way to get out of there.
You're talking less than a quarter of a mile, and you can turn on Maple Grove and go up through there anyway.
Any way it goes from a highway standpoint, correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, anywhere it comes out, there's got to be 300 feet each way of sightline.
I think on Arlington Road, there's not.
Well, for just the residential.
Yeah, that's just residential. 350 for a commercial. So anyway you go, anything where a road would have to be placed would be a minimum center of that entry that would come in would have to have 350 feet each way in order to be able to do it. So there'll only be specific places on the existing road that you would even be able to have the intersection.
Well, it's the density and the flow on Arlington.
Yeah.
Road. You know, they built new 46
To take the density.
relieve the flow on Arlington Road, and trust me, it has not stopped it. I'm
It ain't even slowed it down.
5 o'clock in the morning, I'm hearing everybody ripping down through there. They're at the end of my driveway. I mean,
And,
I'm waking up 5 o'clock.
Yeah, the one thing to take into consideration, Ted, as we look at this, and all of you could, everybody get on, and I'm not a big fan of going online just for everything, but the new county development ordinance is occurring. You know, helps to identify the densities and the areas that they're looking at. And their input is critical in regards to all of us, because we have our neighborhoods that we know more about
Right.
than, you know, any other individual, because we've walked, we've seen it. So, you know,
Yeah.
Across here, you know, the flow that was-
we know the, yeah.
To give you an idea, me and 6 others fought for years against the city to stop them from annexing this basic area. And we finally beat them.
Yeah, good fight.
I just went through another battle to stop a winery from going in out in that basic area and won. All because we convinced the county commissioners, we want that, we have that area, we have been in that area for 40-some years.
It's home.
We want to keep it that way. And it's mostly farm area, and we want to keep it that way. We don't want a whole bunch of houses and a high-rise.
We don't want to recreate the
Apartment
things
complex.
that we don't like as a community, because our identity as a community is set up in that area for a rural environment. Now,
That's what it is.
it is. And that aspect of the area we're talking about in order to do the TIF would be primarily
That's a long term in the future. This TIF aspect that we're looking for is to try to look from a community standpoint, how we fund the infrastructure that the community needs in the correct way. Because the way it's been in the past, as it came through planning, has been the aspect of, well, the developer proposes this, they pay for it, then they turn it over. This is really forward thinking in regards to trying to make it in the right place and have the maximum impact of being able to have affordable work, the housing we had 30 years ago, guys, 30 or 40 years ago that we could do. And still in a close area that then also provides the services and goods that we want, but not to impact our quality rural community. Because as we've looked at it through the county aspect, the city is a higher density aspect. As we start getting into these areas that have the historical aspect, that have the topography and the karst areas, we want to work to that so that we don't have negative impacts. The idea is to not just sprawl yourself, but to make it where it's controlled by our residents and able to make what we consider our county and our community the right.
I was involved in getting water to this entire area back when.
Yeah.
We got that
I remember that.
water in and built, and we sold it to Ellisville so they could manage it. They sold it for $1.
Yeah, because you guys are the ones that hooked off right off Maple Grove there.
That's right.
Yeah, right there,
Yeah.
right there at the pit. Yeah.
We put it in.
And
What's the next?
We're gonna look, we have to do some financial analysis. Because we need to find out, we need to make a determination as to how much assessed value we're gonna have to capture to do any kind of reasonable bonding for any of these projects.
Is that why we've got this huge net as opposed to just private?
Yes.
Because you need enough.
I guess, I think you can look at it two different ways. One, I think the importance of this meeting, and I think we've identified at least one water issue that you guys are experiencing. That's one of the things that the TIF district needs to look at when you're looking at these expansions. What are the current problems? Let's try to fix those. I think the other thing is when you look at what is currently the State Road 46 corridor, North Park, Crider, that is going to have a lot more higher density things, which will, but it's how it's zoned
We're
right now.
talking about 4-lane.
Yeah.
You're talking about the 4-lane.
Off Curry Pike.
Off Curry Pike, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
at the intersection where the rehabilitation hospital is.
Yes, the 4-lane.
Yeah, right there, that area.
That's gonna have higher, which will help fund some of the improvements necessary in the lower density areas, right? So, you look at the assessed value of higher density is gonna be higher. And so you have a water problem off Maple Grove North. Well, we could use some of the funding from the higher density stuff to help fund the improvements in that area. Lower density to help keep the character you guys want in that area, right? That's the theory, right? And so that's the theory. My thought is the next step for everybody in this audience is that think about what we've all seen that there's a water issue on Maple Grove Road, right? Are there other issues like that we should take into account as we look at developing a plan of what we want to use the revenue for? That is kind of, that's on what I would hope you guys would think about. I think the Redevelopment Commission, at least I hope they've heard that, once you get the southern part seems to be acceptable, but once you start pushing that further northern area, that's when you guys have a lot of concerns. And I think they need to contemplate that and think about that as this moves forward. We wanted to have this early in this process before we came to any of these conclusions or anything like that, so you guys could express those here's where our concerns are, here's our concerns, so that they could be contemplated as it moves forward. I know we've referenced the statutory process, and I can tell you the statutory process includes the redevelopment commission making a determination early that will then go to the plan commission, county commissioners, potentially the county council, then back to the redevelopment commission for a public hearing, right? So that's kind of the steps. Now, that is a fairly long process. We have no timeline to begin that formal process at this point. We're very interested in hearing what your guys' thoughts, concerns are, what's good about it, what's bad about it, so as it moves forward, all that can be incorporated.
Can I have a comment on that? When they did the, I know this has been a thing too, but like down by Cascade Park, they put out a survey for a lot of people, and most of the people who use it often. Is there something that you all could do and put out to people in that general area, a survey online that's easy to go through and say, what are your concerns about this area, that, I mean, the flooding, whether it's this or that, or roads.
Yeah, to identify the needed infrastructure in the particular existing.
And why that, and what what your, other concerns about the whole thing, and like maybe as somewhat of a survey that can go out to everyone in that area to have an idea of what's going on, so, we don't all come to a meeting and monopolize all your time every single time.
Well, I guess the simple answer is,
I don't know how.
we can do a survey. The harder question is, I don't live anywhere close to this area, right?
Right,
So I don't know how to focus that survey to capture the audience that you're speaking, right? So if we did a survey, it would be countywide input for that, right? We could have some comment boxes that
I
say.
mean, you all sent us a card, I mean, some people didn't get it, but like if it was information on a card.
Well, that was one of the reasons why we had this meeting, and we sent you those so that we could get information.
So I mean,
collected.
I was just saying, as you do these steps, that was a very helpful thing that I thought that happened with Cascades. That
Thank
people could comment on what they use it for and what they see as good and bad.
Right, we would like to get farther into the process, so we've got more specifics, so that we can ask very specific kinds of questions in a survey. If we send out a survey that's broad-based, it doesn't really give us the kind of direction we need. But if we've got specific things that we can talk about, then we get better information that way. And you have been surveyed by the planning department. For the planning department has had an ongoing survey for 2 years that anybody can respond to. And they announce it at their meetings. They let people know it's available. They don't generally, unfortunately, surveys don't generally give us high numbers of responses.
And I totally understand that, and that's why I was saying more targeted, possibly more,
Yeah.
like that's.
Ideally, since everybody is in this specific geographic area that borders Maple Grove and such, and our primary focus, if one or two of you would set up some sort of neighborhood aspect that could occur. I mean, I'm not a Facebook guy. I'm not one that has the highest technological abilities, but I know there's several people in this room that are probably pretty good at it. To set something up for the neighborhood area and the concerned citizens like yourselves that saw the postcard came in to help give us those directions of what is needed in that. So we get specific input in the area that cares.
Randy, when it comes to these tips here, okay, the information you're gathering right now, are you just looking at the tip down at what you call Criderville or whatever it is? North Park. North Park, thank you.
Is that the goal?
Real name's North Park, yes.
I mean, okay, yeah, when you're talking about the tips, are we talking about each and every one of those? So you guys are gonna like vote on all of them at one time, or are you going to vote at each individual one at different times?
All at once.
All at once.
For the tip area.
Well,
Yeah, but the tip area, correct, and I don't want to speak out of turn with because I came in late And
I thought each one of those blue squares were individual different tips.
no,
There, so the whole thing's
All one TIF.
yeah. And what that does, Ted, when we're looking at the tax increment aspect of it, you want to explain the mechanism of tax increment where it doesn't affect? Yeah, so it's done, so, okay.
Well, the biggest thing I see for a big fight, keister, you might say, is gonna be hitting in that area, like everybody's talking about, the flooding, the limestone, different aspects like that. That takes a lot of, like, in my field where I studied at Purdue in the soils area, that's land classification and soil morphology. A lot of that soil is low drainage. It won't take water in, so it's gonna surface run. And more driveways you put in there, the more houses, they remove any trees that exist in that place. That Stouts Creek's gonna become one great big mud corridor because everything on the east side of 46 from about where the physical therapy place is at, okay, everything along that ridge drains down in where the limestone mill is.
Right.
And that feeds in there. The farm, most all of it, you've got in the blue there, all drains.
I think
just down
everything,
that,
all that drains into stuff.
actually, it's a split. One, right where that fence line is, it goes through the middle of that farm. That's your ridge split almost, if I gauge your, yep, right into there. That's where your pin's at, is the north side, or the south side. The other side would be to the north, and it all flows down to Stouts Creek.
Right.
So as you get development, driveways, blacktop, that increases the surface water.
Well, one of the things that developments of an area this size have to do is to put in retainage. They are required
Yeah, I noticed.
to,
when they did
to
before that.
hold water on the property so that the water released off of that property is at a pre-development rate.
Okay, gotcha. I know what.
That's why you see all these detention ponds all over the place now. They have to hold the water to release it no faster than the pre-development rate. Okay? That's designed specifically to deal with these kinds of issues of flooding.
Is there a place where we can see all of these slides online?
I can put this certainly on the county's website. If you gave me your email address, I could email you the thing, either way.
Sure, absolutely.
Right? This is not
Do both.
secret.
What would the website address be?
It'll be www.co.monroe.in.us. I will, our tech service guy was here earlier, he left. I will try to see if I can't get it at least for the next week or so, kind of on the front page and the breaking news.
Okay.
So, I mean, and if you write out an email, just find your sign-in sheet name and put your email by it. And,
I think it'd be good to do both if you don't mind, because obviously you reach a wide.
well, I think we will definitely put it on the website. If you want to email specifically, just kind of write your.
Sure.
Because I'll drop it to
That
my
would be great.
neighbors.
Yeah, and then that way everybody can see it. Or there'll be a permanent place under the redevelopment commission on our website.
Okay.
But that's not always the most intuitive place to find on our website, so that's why I'll try to get it on the front.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Do you know historically, out of the areas surrounding a TIF, have the property taxes increased, stayed the same? You obviously, this is your area of expertise, it sounds like. So what have you seen historically?
Well, this is we're talking residential TIFs, which are
Right.
really new, right?
Okay.
So, when you're looking at probably the other TIF districts we've had, and the West Side TIF is a perfect, I mean, I guess the North part or State Road 46, the one we're talking about, hasn't really developed, so you haven't really seen anything, right? If you look at the West Side TIF, I think you would see some increase in the surrounding areas around that. So I think that, but I don't want to make any definitive statement about a residential TIF because they're really new. They're new to the state.
When you're talking about the west side tip, where
Basically, the Curry Pride, Prairie Pike. You go, east side is Lowe's, west side is the
Okay.
cook headquarters.
Yeah.
North is,
A lot of housing.
Prairie Pack would be the kind of the northwest corner of it.
Okay.
So,
Oh, so that hub around where Lowe's and.
well, Lowe's would be the
restaurants and
far, Lowe's would be the far east side of it, and it doesn't go, I don't think it goes all the way to
And then
46.
Cook's is on the back, on the other side of it.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Where the old industry plants.
Yeah, where the GE was kind of the center of that. That got created
Westinghouse.
when GE was putting a bunch of new personal
Right.
property in. So it really
That's right.
increased the assessed value, and that was kind of the vehicle to do a lot of the initial projects there.
Okay.
Is the Northwest Y included?
Yes,
Go that far?
yes.
How big an area is the EPA for the private bill? Acreage, you have any idea?
EPA.
Oh, the Westinghouse site that's there.
Where
in-
RCA, Westinghouse, all of them dumped in there where Kreider put in all the roads and stuff like
I
that.
I think the actual site for the EPA that is owned by CBS is not very big. I think, I want to say 6-7 acres. The county purchased the ground
All the way around.
on the, basically where 46 and I-69, everything north to the northeast of that, they've purchased about a 60-acre parcel, 60 to 70-acre parcel.
Lemon
No, no, no.
Yeah, and
It's the ice box.
a third of that has zoning,
Corey.
or a third of it has
Where the-
no environmental restrictions.
No.
A third has
Other side.
pretty intensive
It was.
environmental restrictions, and a third has moderate. And all those environmental restrictions
On the
have
other
to do
side.
with runoff. So make sure that the runoff's not increased because they've got their plant going.
I was just curious how much further beyond the roads that they put in was, was part of the EPA thing.
The roads that are in there don't even come close to the EPA stuff.
That's what I figured.
So it's basically on the east side of the creek.
Let me, can Pat keep going on the slides? I got one that I want to show you about densities of housing in North Park. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Stop. Back up one. There. This slide shows you the housing densities that were approved with the North Park PUD. So you can see there's this multifamily 15, this would be high density. 270 units in this area. This is 5 units per acre in this area here. There's another 1.5. These are lower densities on the perimeter here. There is another higher density here. This is the interchange at Curry Pike and 46. This is the crossroad. This is Hunter Valley Road, is this part right here that we're building now. This part right here would be dedicated to residential at 5 units per acre. And then there's another one that was originally put over here. This is now all county property over here. There is potentially some development at the northern part of this, but down in this area, this is all quarry area and not suitable for building at all. But that's what was in the original PUD, and they could start in North Park PUD. They can start building this at any time. They're permitted to do this.
Oh, that's coming in off that stub off of 46, right?
Yeah, this would be this is the stub off 46.
Yeah.
The roadway would come something like this.
So they've already zoned that in for high density housing.
Right. I doubt if, I suspect that it'll come back for an amendment to that or something. I don't think it's gonna actually develop this way. None of the rest of it has, so.
5 houses per acre,
That land won't carry it.
and they're gonna be sitting on top of each other.
Well, that density you will find throughout the 46 corridor.
Unfortunately,
Yes, but you know, that's just like the city approved. I don't know, it was 5 or 6 properties per acre or whatever, right down there at the corner of Rogers and Country Club. That's extremely tight in there. They had a house fire down there and they couldn't get that house fire out because it kept catching the other houses on fire. And they wound up burning 5 houses just because one of them caught on
Oh,
fire.
yeah, fires in
You know,
dense areas are a
you're,
problem.
you know, the problem is they keep wanting more and more places for people to live, but they're making them too dense. They need to spread that out.
And
Five per acre,
You
you're gonna
can't-
have the same problem. One of them
The more
catches on
spread
fire,
you
they're all
get, the
gonna
more
catch on fire.
expensive it is.
well,
That's the problem.
part of the whole aspect of even looking at trying this, and we need everybody's input, is simply in order to get the infrastructures in ahead of time to keep our costs as low as possible. Sorry, yeah, no, the aspect when we look at trying to move things forward comes down to the infrastructure aspect that we're looking at. To be able to, density wise is a aspect that goes through the planning process. And this is simply to identify how to capture the increment dollars in order to put infrastructure in. That's the basis. The density and such, as it's went through that density aspect Richard was just referring to, that was done what, Richard, 20 years ago?
Is that
For-
density done to the maximum or?
That's a maximum.
But that, again, that's 20 years ago, and just like the core area that was just referred to, that the county, to build a park, took out a significant amount of acreage, and it will be a park. So there won't be that density in that area, because it's just, now it's owned by the county for the,
Randy, before they start building in there, does it come back out to the public for a presentation as far as whether we agree with the
They would have to do a formal development plan, but there wouldn't be any rezoning. There would be a development plan that would have to get heard by the plan.
Okay, but we would not be.
Don't bank on the plan commission.
At all. Like you guys informed us.
Well, if they have a hearing, they've got to notice the hearing and.
That really goes far. And that's nobody here.
I don't want to interrupt things, but I put a list here for people who want the email, so if you could just sign that when you leave. I've noticed some people are.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay, I think we've probably about talked this to death at this point. Thank you all very much for your input. We really appreciate it. This has been a success from our
Do you
standpoint.
anticipate when the next meeting will be so that we can stay informed?
We don't know.
Okay.
We've got to go back now and digest what we've learned. We also have some financial analysis that's got to get done. And we can think about other various scenarios. So
Also,
that,
many of us did not get notice. So only in my neighborhood, I had 2 people get a notice. So if you can make sure that you notice more broadly if you're doing mail outs.
well,
We're right next to
we
each
use the
other.
county, we use the county tax records to do that.
We live right next to each other.
Yeah.
No one- We didn't get notice.
I would tell you that we sent every address, and I think there are about 800 addresses that we sent to ours. They consolidated because we took out state of Indiana, we took out Monroe County, and we took out people on multiple, but everybody in that area. And if you got it, I'm sure their names were on the list. I don't know why they didn't get them.
Yeah, lots of, Susie lives 2 doors down, didn't
Yeah,
get it.
so we sent it to like,
Neighbor next door didn't get it.
we gave them.
Yeah, the assessors. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, the
So
assessors
wanted
find
you
you.
to know.
So I'm sure it wasn't my list that was the problem.
Just you might double check it or take a look at that if you could, just to make sure. We would appreciate it. So,
Yeah.
I think some of them were stuck together too.
Really?
Yeah,
Are you serious?
yes.
Yep, that mass mailings are,
We tried to cover a lot of people to
Sure.
make sure everybody knew. If they didn't get it, I apologize.
You know what?
We have a good neighborhood. We talk.
Give us your
Blame the
information
local
so we
post can office on a lot of
get
that.
you, send you
Yes.
information.
okay, now we have, thank you all again. The commission needs to stay here for a little bit because we got some business we have to do. But thank you for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for doing this.
You look off the thing, Randy.
Yeah, my name's Paul. What I want to talk to you about is my nephew. Pulled his meter and set his house on fire, whatever. He said that the box the meter goes into has to be replaced.
They'll put it back in.
Put it back in. My sister was looking for somebody to do that.
I mean, well, it's an emergency situation, is that power?
I ain't got no power.
No, it isn't.
Find out what's the address, and I'll make a phone call so we get down here. Holly Drive?
The
address is. Holly Drive right up here?
Yeah.
Union Valley, yeah. Yeah, right down there in, yeah, Perry Woods. Yeah. Holly Drive. First one on the right or left?
First house on the right, we turn on Holly. Got a real steep.
Oh, yeah,
driveway.
okay, I know where you're at.
You got that A-frame house.
Yeah, Lindinger, yeah, long story short, my mom lived right there on McNeely. So, yeah, know exactly where you're at, Paul.
Oh, we have to get Jeff back first.
Yeah.
That's right.
Come on, Gina, it's your phone.
What do you want me to? Sandy, take
Thank
care.
you. This was very informative. Thank you. Good.
It's good seeing you. Doing well, things going well? Good.
We're mostly concerned because at the intersection of Lancaster and Maple Grove, the water runoff is coming down so much that in a big storm, I mean, our house, water bubbling up out of the ground, and there's a stream in front of the house and a large stream about 10 foot wide on the back of the house, and every year it keeps getting closer and closer to the house. The garage is already flooding. So we're worried about the watershed and any more manipulation.
Yeah.
All right, let's get the meeting back in order and finish up here really quick.
Take care. I'll tell you what, I'll just run up after the meeting. How's that?
Well, I don't know if she's got
She
some.
might, but if she does, that's great. If not, no big deal.
You should
What's
have.
his name?
Roy Duncan, we need to do our meeting.
Let's go. Oh,
Huh?
write that down.
All right.
Roy Duncan.
We'll finish this up.
We need to deal with these annual excess evaluation resolutions. Jeff, you want to introduce them and then we'll make quick work of them?
Yes, we have 4 different resolutions, 2023-01, 02, 03, and 04, one for each of our 4 tax increment finance districts. They all basically say, as written, they say that you've looked at in your reports, you've looked at things going down in the future, and then at this point in time, there is no excess assessed value. That tracks with the presentations that we received when we got the annual report, where we talked about the use of the funds in the Fullerton Pike TIF being that gigantic bridge that we're going to look at over to finish up the Fullerton Pike project. The Prairie Profile, which you know is the district we have the developer bonds on for the renovation of the former GE plant. North Park TIF, we have the debt for the Hunter Valley Road, which we need to have the revenue come in for. And the West Side TIF, we have the major Vernal Pike connector project that we're trying to make sure we can have the ability to pay for. So that's the logic behind saying there's no excess assessed value for each of those. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
I would entertain a motion to adopt the 4 excess value resolutions.
I know that we adopt all 4 of them,
Yeah, it
and
is.
I don't
It's
have
pretty-
the list in front of me, so I just, there they are.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt all 4 of the annual excess value resolutions.
I can't even do
Please
that.
call the roll, Jeff.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Kiesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelton,
Jim?
you're muted.
He's not muted anymore, but
He's still muted. Commissioner Cassidy.
Yes.
Motion is
Replacing
approved.
himself.
Three to zero.
all right.
Thank you.
Next, staff comment. Lisa, anything from you?
No,
Good.
unless you guys have any questions about any projects. I did make note of flooding, so already inquired about that, so.
I
I did have some people complain about some rural roads that are getting cracked up, but that's normal for this time. Some rural roads that are getting cracked up.
Yeah, and I
That's
mean,
time
if you
to
had
get-
if you knew the road names, I could let you know what, we're on a paving schedule or.
Right, well, I'll let you know if I find some. I've been on some, actually some are city and some are county and some are whatever.
Yep.
Okay, talk to you later.
What's our status on the Hunter Valley project? We have any
I
information?
have not received anything.
I know it was approved, the zoning was approved, and the removal of that was approved by the commissioners. But I've not checked with Steve Kreider to see where they're at with it. Last I chatted with them, that was kind of one of the last hurdles. Actually, let me take that back. I think he said that it was probably going to be a couple more months to get the state permitting that's needed for the bridge.
Right. Jeff, do you have any other comments?
I think this was a great meeting. I just wanted to say that I really appreciate the crowd coming in.
Oh, yes.
It was good group,
I
yeah.
thought it was really productive, but other than that, I've got a son who has a soccer game in 10 minutes. Cut it short today.
Commissioner comments. Randy, anything to say? No?
Nope.
There is,
Nothing here.
and nothing more from me. I think with that,
Jim, did you want to cast a vote for the 4 resolutions?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry. I just thought we were taking a break, but yes, I am for all of them.
okay, all right, so the vote there is 4-0. Okay, and with that, did you want to make any other comments, Jim?
No, just thank you for leading this. I couldn't possibly have imagined trying to do it. So really good job. Thanks. And Randy, thanks for
This
chiming in and helping.
This was a good place.
Yeah, this was a good meeting. I'm glad we did this.
It was a really good meeting. Except if, when you watch it on Cats, you'll hear a lot of coughing. It was really hard to hear sometimes.
I wish we could have asked them to move back or something. Well, that would have helped. a
Well,
little
that
bit
is
with
the
mics.
beauty of modern microphones.
Yeah. Okay, all right, thank you all.
Thank you.
We are
Thank
adjourned.
you.
Thank you, Jim. Good job, too.
Appreciate it.
We're not- no, some of them.
No. That's where institutional memory comes in.
So where are you heading out these days?